Alfred in Texas. That's where I am. Alfred, you are on the line with Austin and Jimmy. How are you today?
Fine. How are you guys?
Alfred, just peachy. Can you hear us all right? There's a bit of a delay there.
I can hear you. I'm just curious, what
Okay.
religion allows you to hate women?
Oh man, are
Oh,
you kidding?
oh,
I came
kind of
from
like
Mormonism.
kind of all of them. I don't. Yeah,
Yeah,
which one? Like,
All of
which,
them? That's an astounding claim.
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, well, like anyone that has like a patriarchal structure where like men are inherently more valuable than women, and the men are the only ones that hold leadership positions, and the men are the only ones that are allowed to like hold the power of God and kind of like work as like clergy leadership over the church, and the women all have to be subservient and kind of quiet. And I mean, I could just keep going on down the list. Like, you might not call that
Yeah.
hate, you might just kind of call that like different roles, but I would say that it encourages an environment and a society and a culture where women are seen as less than and as secondary to men.
Yeah, I'd certainly point
Okay.
also to the extreme control over their body and their sexuality, and not only a set of those rules that you might say, well, the men have those rules too, but institutionally, there's always a difference in the enforcement of those rules and how the person is looked upon. A man who broke the rules was a boy just being a boy, and a woman is a horrendous slut who is given away her virtue and her value.
Mm.
These would be the markers of women hate within the religions. But in Mormonism, they have an entire system of teaching women to just basically spend an entire hour every Sunday judging other women. It's pretty good stuff. They call it the
All
Relief
right. Well, I'm not
Society.
a Mormon and I don't, sorry, I'm not a Mormon and I don't really have time to fact check all that. I'm just going to get back to my point. And it's that, and I think
Word.
even you guys understand this. Sorry? Huh?
Just
Oh,
Oh, I
said
just said
word.
word real quick.
I think,
Is anybody else having a break in the connection, or is this just me? Is it a little bit choppy?
I can hear it all. It's just we're getting a delay.
Okay. All right, word. Oh, I was having even chop from you as well. All right, cool.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry, Alfred. Go ahead.
sure. I think Christianity is, for the most part, a good thing. And even you guys seem to understand it because I'm probably not the first, like, a caller will call in and say, I'm Christian, here's why. And then you guys will jump on with, that stuff. Why don't you subject women? Why don't you own slaves? And you'll like point to, barbaric passages in Leviticus or whatever. And I get it. And then when someone calls in to say, I'm a Christian, and from a Christian perspective, this is why I voted for Trump. And it's like, oh, you guys immediately turn the crazy off. And it's like, well, what about the Sermon on the Mount? What about welcoming the stranger? And it's like, even
Alfred,
you guys
Alfred,
know,
Alfred,
you
Alfred,
know.
Alfred. Alfred, I fully reject what you're saying because I know my own calls, and maybe you're saying somebody else on here does that, and I'm not familiar with them. I have never, ever indicated that I don't think it makes complete sense why Christians like Donald Trump, because I think that Christianity is absolutely seeped in an entire amount of hypocrisy. But there's plenty in the Bible
Sure.
to support the bullshit. However, there is no, if we're talking about pointing out hypocrisy, it's not a matter of we agree with Christianity or that he would be good. It would be that Jesus Christ and Donald Trump could not be more different as characters. And so pointing out hypocrisy is not the same as I don't think Jesus Christ is great. I think there's plenty of negative things in the Sermon on the Mount and negative teachings from Jesus. Durante Lamar just did a great video about 10 awful teachings of Jesus, 10 awful things he said. So please get your facts straight. Pointing out hypocrisy is not the same as agreeing with the premise of it. I like Jesus more than I like most Christian superstars, though, if that makes you feel any better.
Okay. I'm just, so oh,
go ahead.
I read the title of the show. Yes.
I don't
Sorry.
even know what it is.
Delay.
Yeah, what is it? Okay. You still believe in
It's
God?
about
Why? Yeah, great.
the
Go ahead.
believing in. Yeah. So I know some of the arguments you people, the arguments you guys will make against the existence of God, and I don't know if I'll be able to engage with that because, frankly, I think you may might have a point with some of it. And I'm just wondering what you make of us Christians who accept that we don't have a whole lot of evidence and we just keep coming back to parts of the Bible, to church, to God, to Jesus.
Sure.
It's almost like we can't help ourselves. And I think part of that is, what else is there out there? What else is out there? And
You want to
what
go
is there
first
to
on
live
this,
for?
Austin? I've got plenty to say,
Well,
but I'd love to give you. Yeah,
I
go for
would,
it.
I'll give you a nice, easy answer here, Alfred. That's just approaching this with the most with empathy I possibly can. Uh, if I take you at your word here that you're just a person who you don't know that you don't know everything, you don't feel like you have all the answers to the origin of the universe or to the creation of life itself, and you're just doing your best and you're sort of adhering to a faith structure that helps you to be a good person. It gives you some kind of structure and direction in your life. I personally don't really have much of a problem with that. Like in principle, in the abstract, when you talk about like, oh, you guys even understand that Christianity is a good thing, I look at it and go, it has the potential to be okay in people's. It has the potential to be something that doesn't have to be toxic. It's just that so often in its application culturally, it becomes toxic. It's just that more often than not, the vast majority of what we are exposed to in cultural Christianity is highly toxic. And people will say stuff like, Jimmy was just saying at the beginning of the show that we should change the fallacy from no true Scotsman to no true Christian, because anytime we do point to a Christian who's doing one of these really toxic things, everyone goes, oh, well, that's not true Christianity. But it's like, I can't tell you the amount of times that Christians in my comments have gone, oh, that's just evangelicals. And I'm like, do you know that evangelicals are like the majority of Christians in America? That that's that most Christians, conservative Christians in America, are evangelicals. So you can't just dismiss this like massive swath of people that are part of the same faith as you. You can't just say everyone that uses Christianity as a cudgel to bludgeon people with, or to, as like a tool for bad, isn't a true Christian. You have to accept those people as part of your cultural faith practice, even if it's not the way that you practice it. I want to believe that you practice it the way that you say you do, that you're not sure about everything, but this thing sort of works for you. I would ask questions too when you say, there has to be something more. There has to be something else. It can't just be this. I'd say, cool, sure. Why does it have to be Jesus in the Bible? Why not Vishnu? Why not, Allah? Why not Thor? Why not, any other god that people ascribe to? Why do you pick Christianity? My guess is it would be it's the one you were born into and the one you were culturally raised in. So it's the one that just feels the most familiar to you and the most easy to grasp onto. But I would still say, like, if you as a person, as an individual, I have family members and friends who are practicing Christians, if you just want to have, if it's just your personal thing that you like believing in and it doesn't seep out onto other people, you're not like judging queer people or thinking that women should be secondary to men or anything like that, and it's just a personal thing for you that you think helps you, I personally have no problem with it. It's just that so often that's not the case. So often Christianity does bleed out onto the rest of society in all of these really upsetting ways.
I'm more radical than Austin is, though. I do still have a problem with any. I don't think there's such thing as a harmless faith belief, and I think it's not only that it's a problem for the gullibility of the individual, but that it's a foundational acceptance of something that we can't unify with that person over trying to stop people with more dangerous beliefs. So while I find and by the way, Alfred, I don't think you've actually even said you're a progressive Christian. Do you reflect more progressive Christianity or conservative Christianity, Alfred?
Well, you're asking a free spirit leading question, so I don't really have an answer. I'm not going to let you put me in a box. I would just
I'm
note
not
that
trying to,
you said
Alfred.
something
No,
about
hang on,
what
hang
is
on.
it?
I'm in the middle of my point. I'm trying to ask a clarifying thing that's useful to it. But fine, if you don't want to participate in the conversation, I'll make sure I note that when you should have a question back for me in the future, because it wasn't a trap. I was just trying to find out where you're coming from and where it reflects.
All right,
And by the way, you are going to lean one more way than the other. That's just a fact.
Well, sure. It's like asking Mr. Gray, "Are you white or black?" Like, well, that question is designed to generate heat, not light, in my opinion. I mean, I'm
Okay,
afraid I
great.
can't
Thank
answer
you.
your question.
I'm excited for how honest and great and straightforward this conversation is clearly going to go when something that is actually simple and not an attack couldn't be answered. But anyway, then continuing onward with the point I was going to make, foundationally, let's say you were a progressive Christian, I will unify with you over values that I have. But then when it comes to, by the way, part of the problem is that a lot of people are believing for bad reasons. Comes back to your original question of what about people like you who acknowledge you don't have much evidence but feel you are compelled to believe it anyway and don't want to let that go. Well, my answer on what I feel about people like that is that it seems to me easy for you to recognize that there are other people of religions that are in conflict with yours, that you would understand it would be important for them to open up their mind to potentially changing if it's true that they don't have that evidence. So, for example, a radical Muslim who has perhaps even violent tendencies, a person who might be associated with a terrorist organization, that if that is truly rooted in their faith and they are similarly yoked, that they don't have a lot of evidence and they just feel compelled anyway and that they're comfortable with it, that you would want that person, because it seems likely to me, to take stock of that and hopefully change, that would seem like the quickest path for them to change. And if it's easy to go, oh, a person with that type of belief could easily think that they are good when they are in fact bad, and it isn't until you actually start accepting only things which can be demonstrated to be true, can you really take an audit for yourself. Thank you, Alfred, I needed that. Could you actually take an audit? Actually, Alfred, why should I continue the call at this point? I'm literally answering your question, and you're doing a passive aggressive loud sigh into the
It's a monologue.
into what?
It's an answer though. It's an answer. Like it's a monologue if you don't listen. Like if that's as a person who yaps like professionally for a living, I have friends say this to me sometimes where they'll be like, "Oh God, you're just like we'll be out to dinner and they'll be like you didn't even ask any questions." And I'm like, I did ask questions. And also like when you're talking, I'm not just going, God, when is this guy to get me done talking so I can talk next? You asked a question and he's answering your question. So if all you're thinking is, oh, when is he going to stop talking? Why the fuck did you call in? Like, why'd you call? You called the
You
show
wanted my
where
yeah,
we,
yeah.
yeah, like,
You wanted my answer, but apparently not. So, Alfred, go ahead. You apparently have consumed enough that you don't feel you needed more. You know my answer. So, please give a very thoughtfully worded rebuttal to what I've just said, an answer showing your comprehension of my point and that I was using far more words than was necessary for you to understand it. Go on.
No, I mean, I know you're a sophisticated guy. It's just, I got it.
Yeah, I felt like shit,
So
huh?
you brought up
You
the
hated it,
no
I
true
bet.
Christian fallacy. Can I have some space to breathe? Is that okay? Am I allowed to
Yeah, as
respond?
long as, yeah, just careful what sound that breath takes.
Okay. So the no true Christian fallacy. I don't think this is like a slam dunk on it, but there's plenty of places in the Bible, two or three, where it said a true Christian follows the example of Jesus. And like, if someone does something and you can't see, like, would Jesus prop up a people to fight a war they can't win, the Ukrainians? No, he wouldn't do that because that's immoral. He wouldn't do that. If someone says no, that is Christian, you have to ask yourself, is this something Jesus would do? Would Jesus oppress women? No. So yes, there are Christians oppressing women. That doesn't mean that they're true Christians. Does that make sense?
you're
Did
saying
Jesus believe?
Jesus wouldn't prop up a country to fight a war they can't win. So Jesus would be like, just let them die. Like, just like what's happening in Ukraine is it's a sovereign nation that is being invaded by an imperialistic force unjustly. I mean, it's a war crime. It's a crime on the
It
world
is.
stage. And we're saying we should support the people who are the victims of the crime. And you're saying Jesus wouldn't do that. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're saying Jesus wouldn't do that because he'd be propping up a country for in a war that they have no chance of winning. He would be in favor of just saying, just let them all die because they have no chance of winning anyway. Is that what you're saying?
he literally told a parable about this, that if a king is going to war and he has 1,000 troops, and he's going against another king who has 2,000 troops, and he figures out, oh, I can't beat this guy, he's not going to fight him because all his men will die for nothing. Human life actually means something to us Christians. And it's
Thank you for pointing out one of the terrible teachings of Jesus, which is literally the might makes right, which is funny because I hear that.
It's not.
I hear people thinking that that's literally might. He's not going to go to war because he's outnumbered. So the cost of life, that's literally might makes right, buddy. Also, did Jesus support the law of Moses? Yes, it is. Did Jesus support the law of Moses?
It depends what you mean by the law of Moses.
No, it doesn't.
I know you're
pedantic.
Okay.
You pedantic ass. You won't answer any question directly. The law of Moses is a specific thing. Great, go for it.
Sure. So, if I may be given some space to breathe, okay.
You could just answer
a little history.
No. I didn't ask for a history lesson. I asked a yes or no question. No. It isn't, because he said it very directly. I'll give you a hint. It's the verse where he mentions tittle. I find the verse titillating. Did he support the law of Moses?
Holy buddy goody. Yes, in that in the first century, there was an understanding that the Torah was written when we were in a place of power, when we could actually enforce those laws. We can no longer enforce that. That was written for a different time.
Incorrect.
And the Jews at that time were learning to reinterpret it. Yeah.
Not a tittle.
And Jesus also says that the summation of the law and the prophets, what is that? Would you say
not a tittle, baby?
What is the law and the prophets, Jesus?
Excuse me, Alfred. Alfred, are you trying to ask a hyper specific question if I can quote a specific verse? You're welcome to give me the verse. No, I don't have the book memorized, but it is very funny and very telling to what sort of argument style you have here. See, mostly you've avoided doing direct questions, and now you're trying to do gotchas in the form of, do you have the exact verse memorized and can complete it?
No, I just figured
he didn't change it. Okay, was the law of Moses good for women?
So,
yes or no?
No.
Okay.
No.
And did Jesus support the law of Moses?
If we had a first century rabbi in our presence, I don't think he would be 100% on board with it being in effect.
I think he'd be not a tittle on board.
Well, he also said, so to get back to my question,
is Jesus God?
You couldn't answer, which is fine.
Is Jesus God?
So
that's
what was the question that we couldn't
answer my question?
What was the question? What was the question that we couldn't answer?
No, it was that I couldn't recite the exact verse he wanted.
No, it's pretty simple. Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount, which you just cited, fine. He said, "Do unto others what you would have them do to you." This is the law and the prophets.
Mm-hmm.
That was a summation of the law to him.
Mm-hmm.
And that was for many Jews of his time. And I think even
I like
you know
said for many Jews of his time, because it also points out another mistake you're making, which is that these laws were handed to Jews for how they treated other Jews. That law, the Sermon on the Mount, and the Ten Commandments, and what would I assume, I guess, become Christians later. These weren't given out as universal laws to everybody. This was, love your neighbor meant love your Jewish neighbor. And by the way, it also referred to how men treated other men, because keep in mind that Jesus was still upholding the old laws, which treated women as property. Now, Alfred, do you believe that Jesus is God, or do you believe in a separate Jesus and God?
That's too personal.
Okay, well, then, Alfred, I don't know what the point of this call is. I'm not, if we're talking about, first of all,
the definition of neighbor.
Alfred, shut up. There is no point anymore. We're having a theological discussion, and I have questions that are relevant to the point being made. And you see that if you answer that question, it's going to undermine the stupid things you already said, and it's going to reveal the shallow nature of your thought. So to pretend like Donald Trump did when asked what his favorite favorite book, are you more New Testament or Old Testament? I'd say equal. What's your favorite verse? It's too personal, because you don't actually have a way to answer that question that doesn't reveal your ignorance and buffoonery, what is the point of continuing this call if you won't just engage honestly and you're going to be somehow more pedantic than me? And I've been told I'm a pedantic specialist.
It's not polite to answer every question. Okay?
That's what we're doing, though,
you said
Alfred. That's what we're
It's not
doing.
polite to
That's
answer
what the
every
show is.
question.
That's what the show
Jesus.
is.
I don't want to come across.
I would like to.
I don't want to come across
really
as a
quickly.
know-it-all.
But that's what you're.
You know what?
That's what you're here. That's what you're
Okay,
here to do, though.
this
You're
is
here
trolling
to
at this
teach
point.
us. But yeah, but I would like to. I want to touch on one thing really quick. You said this
I
thing.
want to
You
know
said
which one it
Christians
is.
care.
Is it more? Was it
I
too
know.
personal, or he doesn't want to come off as a know-it-all? Which one was true?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, it's neither is the answer. Yeah, but I do want to go back to this thing where you said Christians care about the value of human life, and that's why Jesus wouldn't support trying to defend Ukraine. We would just let the people there be taken over. I want to make this a simpler
they're being
object lesson
press
for
ganged
you.
into fighting. Many of them,
Right,
it's not a choice. They're being press ganged into fighting, and they're leaving the country because they know that.
Alfred, I'm gonna give you an example here. I'm gonna talk in a parable to you. Okay, so this is the parable. Let's say that you and your family in your home. Let's say that a gang shows up at your house and they say, "This is our house now. Your family's my family now. I can do whatever I want with your family." And there's more of them than there are of you. Is the right thing to do, is the Christian thing to do, to say, listen, I don't want my kids to die. I don't want my wife to die. I don't want my family to die. Or whoever you live with, I don't know, your mom, dad, your brothers, sisters, whoever. Is the right thing to say, I don't want them to die, so I'm going to let them just be kind of taken over and ruled by this gang in my house because the gang's stronger than us? Or should someone step in and help you and your family? What do you think is the more moral thing to do in that situation? What do you think that a person who cares about the value of human life should do in that situation? Should they just go, hey, Alfred's house has been taken over by a gang. He should not be pressured into fighting back. He should just let that gang do whatever they want to do with him and his family because the gang is stronger. And it would be is that what you think?
It's a false analogy because with Ukraine,
it's not at all. It's not a false analogy.
It is. It totally is. Because
it's not.
Are you suggesting we should send troops to fight in Ukraine? Because that's what your analogy would entail.
I'm saying you should.
There would be a line.
There's a line. I'm saying you should you support the family that's being invaded by the outside force? Should you support them, or should you say they should just take it? They should just bend over and take it. Which one?
I don't like that kind of.
I know you don't like it. I don't care. It's the analogy.
It's
okay.
too personal.
Your logic, Alfred.
Confident. No. I'll get to it. So I know you guys are leftists, and with you guys, it's not humanity, it's not human life, it's power. And I get that. I get.
No, it is human life.
Alfred,
I'm asking you a question about human life.
I have loved from the beginning of your call. In fact, it was the start of your call, how so much of your stuff is prefaced with what you think. And the first thing you suggested was wrong. Like your very first one. If your points are so strong, why do you need to blanket it in straw men of our points or exaggerations or hyperbole or just actually I'd say it's mostly reductionism, that you like to go as reductionist as you can with our points. If your points are so strong, why can't you just give your point? And if you're going to try to return our points to us, why go reductionist instead of steelman? Because I'll steelman you all day long. I've even tried to set you up for it, but then it's too personal.
You think I
to
feel
make sure
steelman?
that I can fully understand your perspective. Excuse me?
You think I feel steelman? You think I feel steelman?
How could I? Alfred, how could I steelman you? You won't answer the questions that I need the answers to clarify your position, to know where you are coming from. You are preventing
you intentionally
yourself from
asking
being,
loaded questions?
Alfred, you are purposefully preventing yourself from being understood. It is a cowardly method of that's not the right word, of communicating. You are being cowardly in your resistance and reductionism. I would love to steelman you because I would love to have an honest interlocutor who could be steelmanned. But right now, I can't get you to answer basic questions.
Okay. All right. So to answer the other person's question, I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
All right.
Forrest.
If we had a family, and let's say I'm 95% confident that if this guy goes to arms with his family and fights this gang and they're all just going to be slaughtered, then it would be immoral in that case because human life matters to me more, even subjected human life, than power in your eyes. And Ukraine has a limited amount of
Yeah, no,
troops. And if
you're
you
the
think
one
we
who's
should be
worshiping
sending
power
troops there,
here. You're the
no,
one
not
who's
really.
worshiping power here. No, you're saying that because the gang is stronger, you should just let the gang
No,
have
no,
their
no.
way with the
It's just
family.
acknowledging
You're the one
reality.
who's worshiping power. No, but I'm
And
saying
by the
that
way,
it doesn't have to be
the gang's only stronger without your support, by the way. It's literally if I
exactly.
just give my support, we're actually stronger than the gang loses.
You
But
can
without my
support the
support,
family.
isolated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Okay,
can support the
you do
family and
realize
make the family stronger, but you're choosing like,
I
oh,
would
that gang
support
looks
them.
really scary. But no, you're saying no. You're saying if the gang's too strong, then we should back off
It's
and just
not a
the
good
family should just
analogy.
take it. It is. It's the
Sure, if other
exact
people could,
analogy, Alfred.
no, 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 no,
Thank
no.
you,
Would you
referee
like to know
Alfred.
why it's a bad analogy?
I didn't know we were debating the ref today.
Would you like to hear why it is a bad analogy?
Please.
No, not particularly. I'd like to hear I would like to actually just hear your counterpoint. Because I don't think you've
Okay,
already shown that you're not capable of
my
breaking them down. I mean,
my
if you really wanted, Alfred,
counterpoint
you can.
in your thought experiment, other people could come to their aid and fight for them. Just
And
gang
should
up
come
on the
to their aid.
gangsters. And
And
yeah,
should come to their
sure,
aid. People who are their allies,
okay,
friends, and
sure,
have pledged their aid to them.
okay. Now I need a little space to breathe here. Okay, the situation
Okay.
in Ukraine is very different. Sorry.
Keep
Okay,
going.
I said okay.
we are not sending troops to Ukraine. They have a limited, and they're not
Mhm.
asking for troops. They have a limited amount of troops. They are a country 4 times smaller than Russia, and Russia has nukes. And Russia isn't going to back out of this. They view Ukraine's entry into NATO as an existential threat. So they're not going to back out of this. And Ukraine is being propped up. And many of them know they're not going to win this. And that's why they're leaving. That's why they're having the press gang them. That's why they're fighting. Russian soldiers are fighting 14-year-old boys, 70-year-old geezers in uniform. And it's like, what the hell? Like, you realize you don't do that if you're winning. You realize that,
Alfred,
correct?
I like that people accuse me of taking Soros money when I do my job for free. And you're doing Putin's job for free because all of that was just such Russian talking points. No, they don't know that they're going to lose. In fact, there's lots of good reasons to believe that with good support, they will win. In fact, they almost have already. In a way, the election of Trump is the only reason that Russia is changing the
Don't you
tide
say
and
it.
direction of things, as well as like the actual satisfaction at home, because you do actually have to have the support of your population, and the Russian death toll so much higher than the Ukrainian death toll by a
You believe
lot.
those numbers.
I
Uh,
believe
yeah,
numbers close enough to
I'm
those
happy to
numbers.
hear it again.
Alfred. At this point, it's like talking with a flat earther, where it's like, oh yeah, but you believe the best data that we actually have. But I listened to Don
There's a real
Bongino.
fog of war.
I I
Sorry.
listened to Don Bongino and he says those numbers, and when he says those numbers are super wrong, he says it with such confidence. And I think it's crazy that you believe any numbers similar to those that actually the Russian side and the Ukrainian side have essentially validated. And there's plenty of good reasons to believe those numbers. But yes, the Russians have lost a lot more people than the Ukrainians. And the Ukrainians were in a much better position before the guy that I suspect you voted for, since I think that's why you wouldn't answer earlier what your political alignment was. Yeah, I think that the best data we have suggests that a continued support of our neighbor and our ally would have resulted in a better situation for everybody over there and our own security. I don't know
So what do you
why
think
we're
about
getting
people
specific
being
on
press
this, because
ganged?
at the end of the day, we're trying to figure out why you believe in God. But what do I think about the people who what?
The people who are being press ganged into fighting. What do you think about their human rights?
I think it's a very, very sad thing, the idea that anybody should be compelled. And I think if we were adequately supporting our allies, we wouldn't have to, that situation wouldn't be a thing. But whether or not
And
there are
also,
things that are bad that happen, I also think Ukraine has committed war crimes against the Russians. It doesn't mean that that then means Ukraine just gets to lose.
it's also not like
Hmm.
us that's compelling them to fight. Like it's the nation that is invading
Yeah,
them.
their government is.
It's right, but that's what happens when you're a sovereign nation that gets invaded by an outside imperialistic force. Is like
You get to force people to kill other people.
I don't look. I
We
don't
did
think
it. We did it too, baby.
we've done
It's
it.
inhumane.
We've done it. Yeah, we've done it. And I'm
And
not
it's
saying
wrong.
that
It's inhumane.
Probably
yeah,
right.
absolutely. But most, I
Who do
think
you
most
think you
Christians
are
would.
to force people to kill other people?
Alfred, we
think you
just
are?
both Alfred, shut the fuck up. You're so indignant that you can't listen to the words being said because we both actually agreed with you that compelling people to fight in wars is immoral. And then who do you think you are? What is this fucking weird indignation?
It's because
If you actually
it's
listen to the
because he
words,
can't be honest. He can't be
right, you
honest.
can't
Like
win just by actually engaging and hearing and everything. So now if you just act emotionally indignant, boy, you're going to nail us to the wall when people believe what you think we believe. Hey, Alfred, why do you believe in God? What's your best
I'm not at
reason? Give
liberty
it to
to
me.
say.
I'm not at
Yeah,
liberty to
I'm not
say.
getting interrogated.
Yeah, you're not being
What the fuck?
interrogated. This is literally
You called a show that said, "Tell us why you believe in God," and then you said, "I'm not going to be interrogated about my beliefs on God." You called.
Yeah.
You volunteered for an interrogation about your
You
faith.
consented to it, baby.
I don't need to answer
Alfred.
condescending questions.
Hey, Alfred.
That means you look
Alfred,
down
it
on me.
wasn't a condescending question. It's literally the question. We already know you believe in God. Maybe I would think that your reason was at least better than other people's reasons. And what my personal opinion of you is, you called into the show whose question is, why do you believe in God? Alfred, I think you're a coward. That's what I think of you. If you are worried about me looking down on you, your refusal to answer the question that is the theme of the show, I assure you has accomplished that.
You're acting entitled to my response. I mean,
Okay, let me explain this to you, Alfred. I am entitled to your response, or else there will be consequences. If that's what entitlement is, you must answer, or there will be consequences. And Alfred, I am telling you right now, I am the host of this show. I'm not just the host of the show. I own the whole fucking channel, my boy. Alfred, if you don't answer, I'm done with you. So the answer, the following out of your mouth needs to be, I believe in God because, or else it's over, baby. And if you feel that means I'm entitled, I give a shit. Kind of am entitled to do what I want with my fucking show.
you feel in charge.
I do.
He is in charge. It's you called a show that he's the host of, that he owns, that he is in charge, literally.
You
Yeah.
realize I'm playing you like a fiddle right now.
Yeah, really well. Hey, what?
Alfred, everyone that's watching is so impressed with you. You're so impressive. Yeah. It's crazy. Your ability to say, "I'm not at liberty to say," or "That's too personal," is you're working logical circles around us. It's amazing. It's an amazing feat to behold.
Alfred, what thing do you dislike the most about how we engage? Now, I want to know if you feel like you're in charge, since right now no one can hear you, because as the person literally in charge, I've taken away your ability to make a sound. So, Alfred, I will unmute you for one last question. Oh, he hung up. I had one last one for him.
Well, he kind
of
got us there, Jimmy. He showed that he has the power to hang up, which we forgot about. So
no, I forgot about. Yeah,
point Alfred. I think that he kind of played us like a fiddle. I think we got played like a fiddle. I think you got to shut down the channel.
The whole thing's done.
In all the years that you've been doing this,
so I can forward the Google checks to you, please.
In all the years that you've been doing this, have you ever been played so thoroughly?
Oh, I'm embarrassed. The real reason I left, I've been taking a break for several weeks, is that I just realized that I wasn't any good at this, and to come back on and have my first interaction to be owned as though as though I am an ancient Canaanite under his God's laws. It's
Can you
tough.
imagine calling into a show thinking you're going to like own some atheists, not being able to answer a single question, being asked several questions and not being able or willing to answer a single one, and then saying, I win, and hanging up?
Yeah.
Like, what a use of your day.
I feel like the best shot he might have is if his I'm playing you like a fiddle was his revelation that am so dumb that I made you believe I'm actually a Christian, but I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm just doing whatever. Which would be, listen, man, good on you if you are trolling and you actually called in on your phone, because now I have your fucking phone number. Hey there, Eric. Noting that anyone watching that clip makes atrociously poor life decisions, where should they send their protection money to prevent further damage?
All protection money should be sent to patreon.com/calltheline, or else we will break your kneecaps.
Okay, we can't say that. I think we can't
no
say
threats?
that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hit like and subscribe.